Most celebrities buy yachts. Some buy islands. But a rare few spend millions chasing something far more dangerous. Machines built to kill, now kept alive by obsession, jet fuel, and generational wealth. These aren't display pieces. These aren't museum loans. These are fully airworthy warbirds and Golden Age classics owned by some of the most famous names on the planet. And the stories behind why they bought them will genuinely surprise you. Before we hit number 1, you need to hear what one celebrity spent restoring a single engine. Stick around, because that number is almost offensive. Starting the countdown at number 10. Number 10. John Travolta. Most people know he's a pilot. Fewer people know just how deep that obsession actually runs. Travolta holds an airline transport pilot certificate and has logged thousands of hours across multiple aircraft types. But sitting among his impressive personal fleet is a 1964 Boeing 707, a machine that once served as a workhorse of the jet age and now represents one of the last privately owned, airworthy examples on Earth. The 707 is powered by 4 Pratt & Whitney JT3D turbofan engines, producing around 18,000 pounds of thrust each. At cruise, this aircraft moves at approximately 600 miles per hour, fast enough to cross the continental United States in under 5 hours. Travolta had the aircraft painted in Qantas livery as a tribute to the airline he flew for, and he's been known to personally pilot it on long-haul trips. Most collectors frame their vintage aircraft. Travolta files flight plans in his. The 707 technically isn't a warbird, but owning and maintaining a 4-engine commercial jet from 1964 as a private citizen is a level of aviation commitment that belongs on this list without apology. Number 9. Harrison Ford. The man who played Han Solo actually flies solo, regularly, and in machinery that would make most pilots sweat. Ford owns a diverse private collection that includes a 1942 Ryan PT-22 Recruit, a World War II primary trainer once used to teach thousands of American military pilots their first maneuvers. The PT-22 is powered by a Kinner R45-cylinder radial engine, producing 160 horsepower. It cruises at around 100 miles per hour and tops out near 131 miles per hour, modest by modern standards. But the experience of flying an open-cockpit radial trainer from the early 1940s is something no modern aircraft can replicate. Ford also owns a Cessna 208 Caravan, a de Havilland Beaver, and a Gulfstream IV, among others. But the PT-22 is the soul of his collection. He's been involved in multiple aviation incidents over the years, including a forced landing on a golf course, which only confirms one thing: the man isn't just a collector, he flies these aircraft hard and often. There's a version of aviation enthusiasm that lives in hangar conversations. Ford's version lives in the sky. Number 8. Nicolas Cage. The man spent his Hollywood peak buying castles, dinosaur skulls, and comic books. So naturally, he also went through a phase of owning a World War II fighter. Cage acquired a Fokker DV-4 replica at the height of his collecting era, a tribute to the legendary German biplane that terrorized Allied forces in the final stages of World War I. The original Fokker DV-4 was considered so dangerous that the Armistice Agreement of 1918 specifically demanded Germany surrender all operational DVI aircraft to the Allies by name, the only aircraft in history to receive that distinction. Powered by either a Mercedes D3 or BMW 3A inline 6-cylinder engine producing between 160 and 185 horsepower, the DVII could climb at an exceptional rate for its era and had a top speed of over 116 miles per hour. Cage's financial collapse eventually forced the sale of most of his collection, but the fact that a modern Hollywood star once owned a replica of the single most feared fighter of the First World War is the kind of detail that deserves more attention than it gets. Number 7. Tom Cruise. Before you say it, yes, he earned his pilot license specifically to fly his own aircraft in the Top Gun sequel. But what he actually flies outside of film sets is where things get genuinely interesting. Cruise owns a World War II North American P-51 Mustang, perhaps the single most iconic American fighter ever produced. His specific aircraft is painted in period-correct livery and is fully airworthy. The P-51D Mustang is powered by a Packard-built Rolls-Royce Merlin V1657 engine, a 1,490 horsepower supercharged V12 that gives the aircraft a top speed of 437 miles per hour and a cruise speed of around 30-60 miles per hour. At cruise, a P-51 covers the distance from Los Angeles to San Francisco in roughly 55 minutes. When it entered service in 1942, it changed the air war over Europe entirely by giving Allied bombers a long-range escort fighter that could go toe-to-toe with the Luftwaffe's best. Cruise doesn't just admire aviation from behind velvet ropes. He rolls that Merlin engine over, feels it cough to life, and takes it up himself. For a man whose entire brand is doing things no rational person would do, owning a Mustang is almost perfectly on brand. Number 6. Angelina Jolie. This one catches most people off guard. Jolie earned her pilot license in 2004 and has since expanded her rating to fly twin-engine aircraft. She owns a Cirrus SR-22, but the more compelling story is her reported interest in and access to vintage aircraft through humanitarian flight operations. What places her here is her Supermarine Spitfire connection. She has been photographed with and has spoken publicly about her deep admiration for the Spitfire, and she arranged flight experiences in the aircraft as part of her broader aviation journey. The Supermarine Spitfire MKI was powered by a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine producing 1,030 horsepower, with later variants pushing significantly higher. It had a top speed of 36.2 miles per hour and a service ceiling of 34,000 feet. The Spitfire's elliptical wing design wasn't just beautiful. It was aerodynamically revolutionary, giving the aircraft a rate of roll that confounded German pilots during the Battle of Britain. A female Hollywood icon with a genuine passion for one of the most beautiful aircraft ever built is not a story the aviation world has told loudly enough. Consider this a correction. Pause for a second. If this list is hitting harder than you expected, you're not alone. Subscribe now if you haven't, because the next 5 entries are where the collections get truly extraordinary. And number 1 involves a restoration cost that will make your jaw drop. Number 5. Paul Allen. The Microsoft co-founder didn't just collect vintage aircraft, he built one of the most significant private aviation museums on the planet. The Flying Heritage and Combat Armor Collection, based in Everett, Washington, housed some of the rarest flying warbirds ever assembled under one roof. Allen owned a fully airworthy Focke-Wulf FW-190A, one of fewer than a handful of original airworthy examples remaining on Earth. The FW-190A was powered by a BMW 801 D2 air-cooled 14-cylinder radial engine, producing 1,700 horsepower. It had a top speed of 408 miles per hour and was considered by many Allied pilots to be the most dangerous single-engine fighter they faced in the European theater. When the FW-190 appeared over the English Channel in 1941, it was immediately superior to the Spitfire MKV, a fact that sent shockwaves through RAF Command and triggered an emergency development program for the Spitfire Mk9. Allen also held a Messerschmitt Me F199, a Hawker Hurricane, and a rare Mitsubishi Zero, making his collection arguably the most combat historically significant private fleet ever assembled. Allen passed away in 2018, but his aircraft continue to fly as part of the preserved collection. Number 4. Kermit Weeks. The name may not ring bells outside of aviation circles, but within them, Kermit Weeks is treated with a level of reverence most celebrities never achieve. His Fantasy of Flight collection near Polk City, Florida, represents a lifetime of obsessive acquisition and restoration. Weeks owns more flyable vintage aircraft than almost any other private individual on Earth, with a collection that at its peak numbered well over 100 aircraft. Among his most prized possessions is a Dornier Do-27, a Sikorsky JRS-1, and multiple World War II fighters in fully airworthy condition. But the crown jewel of his rarer pieces is his Grumman F-3F biplane, one of the last biplane fighters ever ordered by the United States Navy. Introduced in 1936 and powered by a Wright R-1820 22 Cyclone 9-cylinder radial engine producing 950 horsepower, with a top speed of 264 miles per hour. Weeks has dedicated his life and fortune to the preservation of aircraft that would otherwise exist only in photographs. His story isn't as glamorous as a Hollywood blockbuster, but the scale and depth of what he's built puts him ahead of every movie star on this list from a pure aviation standpoint. Sick. Number 3. The tension starts here. Steve McQueen, the king of cool, didn't do anything at half speed, not in cars, not on motorcycles, and certainly not in the air. McQueen earned his pilot license and accumulated over 100 hours of flight time. His personal aircraft collection included a 1931 Stearman biplane, a Pitts Special Aerobatic aircraft, and his most prized possession, a World War II Stearman PT-17 Cadet that he regularly flew low and fast over his California property. The Stearman PT-17 is powered by a Continental R670 7-cylinder radial engine, producing 220 horsepower, with a top speed of 121 miles per hour and a cruise speed of 121 miles per hour and a cruise speed of 104 miles per hour. McQueen specifically sought out aircraft that required physical skill to manage. Aircraft with no modern automation, no autopilot, no forgiveness. He flew the Stearman with the same intensity he drove everything else. Committed, slightly reckless, and completely alive. When McQueen died in 1980, his aircraft were among his most personal possessions. In the decades since, the Stearman he flew has become one of the most emotionally resonant pieces of celebrity aviation history in existence. You don't just buy a McQueen Stearman, you inherit his heartbeat. Number 2. John Travolta again? No. This lot belongs to someone who took vintage aviation and turned it into a corporate identity. The Red Bull Flying Bulls. Dietrich Mateschitz, the billionaire founder of Red Bull, didn't stop at sponsoring Formula One teams and extreme sports. He built a private air force. The Red Bull Air Race Fleet, officially known as the Flying Bulls, is based in Salzburg, Austria, and contains some of the most historically significant warbirds flying anywhere on Earth. The centerpiece of the collection is a North American B-25 Mitchell medium bomber, powered by two Wright R-26-192 double Cyclone 14-cylinder radial engines, producing 15,700 horsepower each. The B-25 has a top speed of 272 miles per hour and a range of 1,350 miles. The Flying Bulls also operate a Douglas DC-6, a Lockheed P-38 Lightning, a Chance Vought F-4U Corsair, and a Hawker Sea Fury, among others. The Corsair alone, powered by a Pratt & Whitney R-28-108W Wasp producing 2,450 horsepower, has a top speed of 446 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest piston-engine aircraft ever built. Mateschitz didn't collect aircraft for ego. He collected them because he genuinely believed in the culture they represented. Speed, engineering excellence, and the kind of human courage that built the modern world. The Flying Bulls perform publicly, fly regularly, and maintain their aircraft to the highest operational standard in private aviation. No other corporate collection comes close. Number 1. Jim Caviezel? No. Jacques Littlefield? Closer. The answer is Jack Roush. Actually, pull back. The undisputed number 1 for pure jaw-dropping investment in a single vintage aircraft restoration belongs to the story surrounding the commemorative Air Force's B-29 Superfortress, Fifi. But for individual celebrity ownership at this scale, the crown belongs to Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen's acquisition and full restoration of a Messerschmitt Me 262, the world's first operational jet-powered fighter aircraft.